Welcome to The Table, the podcast where we share real stories, struggles, and victories as we walk together in faith. Join us as we welcome another special guest to the podcast today. We're diving into a familiar lie: I'm all alone. If you've ever felt physically alone or figuratively alone, I think there's something in this episode that will resonate with you. There are so many nuggets of wisdom that apply to all kinds of seasons of life, not just the lonely ones. I think you'll really enjoy hearing how the Lord has worked in all the ups and downs of Lindsay's story and the path that has led her to a steady faith. Okay, let's jump in. You might want to grab something to write with. Come on to the table and join us for this week's episode. Hey, Jenna.
Hi.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
Welcome to the table. We're so glad that you're here as our guest today. Jenna, do you want to introduce Lindsay?
I can. I have known Lindsay since she was a little girl, and she probably doesn't even know that I do, or that I did. But she used to come. Her family was a singing group, and they used to visit our church for homecomings and different fifth Sunday singings. And so she'd be a little girl up on the stage and singing her heart out. And I knew her from that point. But it wasn't until years later that I actually met her, and we met at a minister's school conference. I would say that's when we met. It may have been,
I think
probably,
so.
where we actually got to talking to each other. And she is a pastor's wife. She has four beautiful children. She is a homeschooling mom. She works from home. Her plate is full and running over. And she has been such an encouragement and a support to me, not just as a pastor's wife, but just as a friend. We've been pregnant at the same time. Our husbands have struggled with things at the same time. Our families have gone through health issues around the same time. And she's just been a person that I know I can go to. And when the whole world feels overwhelming, when my whole home is a wreck, she tends to get it. And she's just that person for me that I know I can go to. And I know she'll pray for me, and I know she won't judge me. And she's just been a dear friend to me over the last, I don't know, 10, 6, 7, somewhere years. When you get older, those
It's
numbers.
been a long time now, I know.
Yeah. So this is Lindsay Horton.
Welcome, Lindsay. I'm so glad
Thank
you
you.
said yes to this. And I love hearing about the friendship that you and Jenna have built over time and kind of where you came together. And there sounds like there's a lot of similarities between the life
Yes.
that you're living. So I'm excited to hear more about that. Lindsay, do you want to tell us anything about yourself, who you are, who's with you?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have grown up in Indianapolis, like Jenna said, my whole life. My papa and my dad, when I was younger, were in a Southern gospel group. And so we traveled all over God's creation to sing. And that's when I got to meet a lot of people within our ranks. That's how I met my husband, who Jenna said is a pastor now of the church that I grew up in. So I've been at Southside Missionary Baptist Church my whole life. I was saved when I was 8 years old, and been there at Southside ever since. Drew and I met kind of back when Jenna and I met. I was 6 and he was 8. And like I said, my family traveled to Nashville, Tennessee, and sang at a church called Harmony, where his dad was the pastor. And we had been friends since we were 6 and 8, and we dated or were boyfriend and girlfriend back then, and wrote letters back and forth to each other and all the things. And when we would, I have grandparents that live in Kentucky, and so when we would go visit, we would meet up, and our moms would take us to the movies. And like we still talk about how we saw like 101 Dalmatians in the movie theater with our moms, and just being friends. And then we kind of grew apart in like our middle school, high school years, and but always stayed friends. Like it was always in between every conflict and everything. Like he was my go-to. Like we would just catch up with each other. And then when I was a junior in high school, his brother came and preached at my church, and he came with him, and it was kind of like it was we were. that time apart didn't even matter and kind of hit it off immediately. And we've been together ever since. We just actually celebrated 14 years of marriage in June. And like Jenna said, we've been blessed with four beautiful children: Leland, Tucker, Graceland, and Knox. They range from 12 to 3. So, like Jenna, I have a wide variety of ages. Um, and I'm a homeschool mom who also works part-time. I'm an MA by trade, medical assistant, so I do like medical billing and stuff for a DME company. And then we have all the activities, which I know Jenna knows all about that. So, yeah, they're busy and fun. And thank you, Jenna, for saying those sweet things. She's been more of an encouragement to me, I feel like, than I have to her. I feel like God put Jenna in my life, like, we've known each other, like she said, since I was little, but I do feel like God put Jenna in my life at the right time. In 2017, we lost a baby, and it was probably like the lowest of lows. And I'm not going to try and get too ahead of myself for what we're talking about today, but God put Jenna there just in the perfect nick of time. And I needed her and her experiences and her words and her encouragement to get out of a really dark place that you can find yourself in when grief hits and things hit. And so she means the world to me. And I feel the same about her. I call her all the time and I'm like, judgment free zone. She's like, yes, we got that. So yeah, we're busy, crazy mamas, and we get the real to each other, I feel like, on Marco Polo, and be able to just get it all out. So I'm so excited to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Okay, two things. The first thing is not a serious thing, but I'm so glad to know that you're part of the Marco Polo family. So if you're a listener and you haven't jumped on that bandwagon, you need to because it's a life changer, especially for us mamas. But the second thing, Lindsay, I don't know that you know this, but because it hasn't come out yet. But in last week's episode, at this point, it hasn't come out. At last week's episode, Jenna talked a lot about some of the struggles that she faced in the season of walking through losing babies. And so I think it's so sweet that that's what you mentioned today because you are like a living testament to how that horrible experience for Jenna like helped to encourage you through your horrible experience. So I just thought that was sweet, and I wanted to point that out for everybody listening because you had no idea we had that conversation. But we did. Isn't the Lord good? Okay. Thank you for telling us a little bit about yourself. We ask all of our guests three questions. And Jenna was responsible for sending them to you, so I know you got them. I feel like sometimes if I invite a guest, they don't get those questions until the last minute. But so hopefully, no surprises here. Our first question is about feasting. And so, how, Lindsay, over the last couple of weeks, have you been fueling your spirit? What have you been feasting on in the Word, and just in life in general?
So this one was easy. I'm a big supporter of you guys and your podcast. So I feel like recently I you can ask Jenna, I'll send her a text or I'll send her a Marco and be like, yes, this lesson or this week really spoke to me. So but I'm also a very like subject oriented type of studier. I don't just like open my Bible. I'm not very good at self-discipline to just open and read and go with it. I like topic oriented, like subject studier. And so I'll find like an area that I'm struggling in, or that if I have a friend or acquaintance that is struggling in something, then I kind of throw myself into that so I can give the best advice. But I also like book studies. I've done a lot of different book studies, and I'll talk probably about a lot of those in the lesson today, because I don't love to read. I don't have a love to read, but I do love to know, like, I love life application. And so it just amazes me how much in the scripture, like God's word really does apply to our lives today. And so, like, if we are searching or we're hungry and we don't know the answers, they're in there. We just have to find them. And so I love life application. Like Jenna said, I'm also a homeschool mama. So I feel like you're constantly studying and trying to teach your children. And that's kind of our ministry right now. And just been, submitting all of that and teaching them and growing little disciples. And then lastly, our church is going to do a marriage conference this year. And so we are so excited to host that. I think for a long time, our churches need like spouse and marriage conferences. And my husband and I are big avid. We go to different ones. It doesn't matter what denomination. Like, I just want to know and see what people's opinions are and how they relate to the word and all the things. And so we are hosting our first ever marriage conference this year. And so I've kind of been studying and throwing into that and planning it and getting all that we can to do the topics and everything like that. So,
That was a great answer, and there are tons of resources that you just mentioned. But the one thing that I think about as I hear you talk about all that is like, I don't know what your quiet time looks like, but a lot of those things that are fueling you and that you're feasting on have to do with other things you've been called to, like homeschooling and getting stuff together for the marriage conference. So it doesn't have to be I probably need to hear this today. It doesn't have to be like sitting on the couch, no one's talking to you. This doesn't have anything to do with anything that I'm doing, and I'm
right?
just gonna like read the words in the Bible. It can be that, but it doesn't have to
Yes.
be.
And it
So
should be that at sometimes. Like, we should have our prayer closet, and sometimes, especially I feel like us as mamas, we need to get our quiet time and get away. So we're feeding our inner selves too and not just constantly pouring into others. Because we get empty that way if we're just constantly pouring out of ourselves and not refilling ourselves. But I feel like over the last year, God's really showed me that even in doing other things, you're still fueling you can still fuel yourself too. So I have loved learning that within the last year or so about how we're fueling our spirit and feeding each other.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, question number two has to do with fellowship. So where are you finding fellowship with other believers lately?
Yeah, so like Jenna said, I'm a pastor's wife, and we are we're not a big church. We're kind of small, but we have lots of young families in our church. Like, we probably went 10 years at our church where there was at least one person pregnant at all times. And so somebody was always having a baby. And so we also host a small group weekly here at our house. It's kind of just like our Wednesday night Bible study, but changed it to more intimate setting. Um, and it's really been good for our church. We have been able, like, mamas and husbands and wives and all. I feel like when you do some Bible studies, um, you kind of just get when you're in a big group, it's kind of intimidating. And so when you get around your dining room table or you're sitting on your couch in your house and you can just read the word together and study and do small group like that, it's been really, really helpful and healthy for our church. Like, it really has helped us been able to bear each other's burdens and share our struggles and things like that. And so, and then we also just got done last weekend hosting our annual youth weekend. So we kind of pour into our youth at that time and teach them, how to conduct services and how to put God first and try and really focus in on the youth, although it's open for all ages. But we host that annually. And then, like I said, our marriage conference in November is coming up. And so, you know, strong strong marriages make strong families, and strong families make strong churches, and we need strong churches today. And so I it's just been a really big burden on mine and Drew's heart to try and encourage and strengthen our families and make our churches stronger within, starting at home, in that unit that God has created. And so that's kind of where we're focusing on right now at our church in our home.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of good ways that you're finding fellowship. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so third question, and this one I feel like is always the hardest one to answer, especially because I mean, I don't know you very well, and neither do the people listening probably. So tell us, Lindsay, what's something that you're needing to find forgiveness for? Like something that you're having to take to Jesus probably over and over, at least if I'm speaking for myself and get forgiveness for.
Yeah, so I'm gonna really try not get too ahead of myself or go too deep for this one, but I think if we're all honest with ourselves, like we seek forgiveness, we should be seeking forgiveness daily, and so, but I would say that because I'm a homeschool mom, I stay at home with my kids, that the most people that I'm around are my husband and my children. And so, daily I'm asking for forgiveness from them on how I reacted to something, or did I say it the right way, or my my oldest teaches me a lot. He is very, whereas like I'm a person, I'm very bold, and what I say is like I don't sugarcoat a lot of things, which is really like not very well good. Sometimes you have to be, compassionate and loving, and so I think that I struggle with like soft speaking to people, if that makes sense. And so like when things are black and white to me and they're not black and white to other people, I have a really hard time like communicating that and getting them to understand because it's so clear in my mind. I'm like, do you not get this? But it just doesn't come that way to everybody. And so I think mainly is just like asking the Lord to soften my heart and soften my words where it doesn't really, I don't come out of it as ill will. You can ask Jenna. I'm just a very bold, blunt person. And so what if it's black and white to me? I just think it should be black and white to everybody else. And that's not always how it happens. And so God really teaches me that daily with, especially within my children and my husband, that sometimes you need to be truthful in what you say, but sometimes that like you need to be loving and compassionate with your words, and words matter and how you say it. So that's probably my biggest struggle for sure.
I'm really glad you shared that because I struggle the opposite direction. I will like hmm, lie is a strong word, but I will definitely avoid saying anything to someone if I'm going to disagree with them. Like, I'm not very bold in saying the things that I want. And one of the pastors that I listen to a lot, he says, like, he taught his kids, in our house, we're honest, but honest isn't mean. And you have to toe that line. Jenna, I'm going to ask you this because you have a long friendship with Lindsay. And I'm not disqualifying what you said, Lindsay, like you know your own spirit, but I bet that sometimes that's a blessing. Like sometimes that's a blessing for me when people are just frank and like just tell me how it is. It can be refreshing. So I know that you have to walk that line, but Jenna, as Lindsay's friend, has that tell me what it's like to be friends with Lindsay, knowing that she's going to be honest with you and tell you.
I think we're both that way sometimes. That sometimes she says things and it stings a little, but it's true. And I need to hear it. And I probably do the same thing for her just because it's not that things are black and white. It's just like, okay, to me, this is the truth. And I just need to say it. And I've got a child like that, that this is the truth. I have to say it out loud. But sometimes the truth has, well, all the time, the truth needs to be said in love. And I'm trying to do better with that myself so that the child I have that's like that can learn it as well because he's going to need it as he gets older, but he's super bold. Lindsay has kids that are super bold too and are willing to just say what they want to say. And I think that part, that truth, and then the prepositional phrase in love, that prepositional phrase is huge. And
Hmm.
and when you leave that off, when you're telling your truth, being black and white with people, I think you miss the whole mark. And so I appreciate that she says, like, I know that I'm bold. I know that I'm blunt. And as her friend, I love that she is learning, just like I am, that all those things have to come gentle. The truth has to come off gentle at times and in love all the time.
Yeah, I just so appreciate both of you. One, your self-awareness to know that that's how you are. Um, to see that in your kids, and then to model. growing in that? Because I do think it's a gift. I think sharing the truth is a gift that we are called to as believers. And you're right, Jenna. It's always the truth and love. So, Lindsay, I didn't mean to take us down that path. Sorry.
No, that's totally fine. No, I love the word. I love that Jenna used the word gentle because that is more what my heart was going to is like just be gentle about it because a lot of times like our intentions aren't mean. Our intentions are loving. And so everybody's like do it in love and I'm like I'm trying. I am in love. Like I love this person and I want them to understand the truth. And so to me, I'm like, I am doing it in love. And I'll tell my husband sometimes, he was like, you're a little harsh there. And I was like, but I was doing it in love. I was like, I was doing what the Bible says. And I was like, but we need to be gentle. And so I love that she used that word is being more gentle with people and not so abrupt, so to speak. So
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I mean, gentleness is a fruit of the spirit, which there's a little freedom in that because I don't have to like muster that up on my own. The spirit will develop that in me. Okay, so again, I feel like we did this with Morgan with every guest. I feel like we could have made a podcast episode out of just that conversation, but now we're going to talk about what we're here to talk about today. Lindsay, we're in the middle, because you listen, we're in the middle of our summer series, and we're talking about the lies that we feel or believe, and then the truth that we should replace them with. And we are talking about the lie that we are alone. And I just want you to tell me what led you this direction? What made you pick this particular lie?
well, my friend Jenna did. I'm just kidding. No, I told her a long time ago, it's like if you ever need me, like you can ask. I'm not gonna say no to you. But she said as soon as she heard this, she thought of me because of conversations that we've had and so yeah, so she asked me to do this and I want to preface this by like I think when you think of this, you think of people who are single or like truly alone on the outside. And I know we've talked about, and you guys have talked on here about social media and the pretend facade that we put out on social media, and people who deal with loneliness don't have to be alone physically. Like I feel like and so I want to preface this by like when I talk, like I'm not physically alone. I have a great husband. Our marriage is good. I have four beautiful children. I've had a good life. Like, I just don't want this to come off the wrong way. And like, people and be like, why are you speaking of this? Because you're not alone. Like, you're married and you have a great family and a great life. And so I just want to say, sometimes it can appear on the outside like someone has it all together. And, but on the inside, they're not okay. And I think that's a lot of people that we come in contact with on a daily basis. And the devil and Satan really likes to use our innermost, deepest thoughts and our anxieties and our struggles and our weaknesses to attack our hearts. And so, loneliness, although it doesn't seem like it was something that I would deal with, loneliness is definitely something that I've kind of dealt with off and on my whole life. So,
Jenna, I know that you and Lindsay are good friends, and you asked her to do this, but I want to know if you can share, and if not, I'll edit this out. I want to know like when you think about Lindsay, I know how Lindsay feels about her life and herself, and she just shared some of that, but like what do you see when you look at the way that Lindsay has walked with Jesus over the last several years?
So the truth is, she's right. You can't tell on the outside what she's struggling with. You see a person who continues to love her family well. You see a person who serves the Lord extremely well. She's very committed to her church, to her family, not just her immediate family. She's very committed to her extended family. They are committed family. But in those things and in you know, those activities, those daily activities, she has walked through some hard things and things that would make you doubt and feel lonely. And she continues to give. and she continues to serve, and she does very well. She may not feel that way, but she does a good job at doing all the things despite her feelings. And I guess that's what's good about having someone that you can go to and just share those feelings with. And so I've heard some of the ins and outs of her loneliness, but I've also, and I want to encourage her, and I don't want to get emotional too soon in this, but she, even when we had the podcast about encouraging others, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, but she reached out to me and said, "So what does it look like if you're suffering and you're hurting? What does it look like? How do you start encouraging others? Because if I'm in a season of dark or hurting or lonely, it's hard to want to encourage others. And I know that's what I need to do, but how do you get there?" And so she and I have had this conversation often. It's founded a lot of conversations on the podcast for me just because she makes my brain and my heart think about those things deeper than just surface level. And so she is going to look, she's going to keep serving, she's going to do the things, but she's right that people are struggling even if you can't see it on the outside. And so her stories of feeling alone are valid, and she has chosen to continue loving and serving God.
I hope I didn't make you feel uncomfortable, Lindsay. I'm so
No.
glad that you got to hear Jenna say that, and you've probably heard her say that before, because I think something that I am wrestling with right now is this idea that things need to look really nice on the outside. And I think honestly, this is gonna not sound great. I'm just to the point where I'm tired of it. Like there's this song that has been ringing through my ears. It's like I'm done with almost all of it, but Jesus, I'm tired. I'm tired of people, other people, even and myself, like putting on this fake picture of what their life is like. And I think because our culture makes us believe that it should be really easy, and if it's not, then you're broken. I think that's a lie that the enemy tells us. Um, some people are looking like they're doing great, and on the inside, they're not. And so I appreciate your honesty, Lindsay, and I appreciate Jenna you saying like I this is still how it looks. She's still doing the things she needs to do, but she's being open and honest with me about the struggles that she's walking through, and that can grow your friendship just having those conversations. So, didn't mean to take us that way, sorry. Um, Lindsay, talk to us a little bit about a season that you have felt lonely, and then how, like, and then what? And then how did the Lord bring you through it?
So I wrote down all my examples. I sent Jenna my notes so you can ask her. It's really ridiculous, but I'm gonna try and give you like high level, surface level notes, and you take what you want of it and then use whatever. But I would say like it probably started back in elementary school. Like I think when you're a kid, like you always want that best friend. Like you always want that one friend that like you're at their house all the time and you have sleepovers and you go to recess together and you eat lunch together and you have class together and all the things. And so I was probably around 10 and like my really good friend who I've grown up with for a while now. She moved away and went to a different school, and so it was really really hard at 10. You're just like, who do I go to next? Who do I run to? Who do I sit with at lunch? And because you think around you, like other people have their best friends too. Like there's already groups established and there's already long friendships there. And um, so it just kind of felt like, um, my world was crashing down on me at 10 years old. That my friend moved away and I didn't have that person all the time anymore. And I would say like that type of loneliness through friendship probably like just on and off through school. And I'm sure everybody's like, yeah, I've dealt with that. I've lost friends and things, and I think most people have. But every time it was like they would move away for and go to a different school or move away to a different state, or even sometimes they didn't move at all and they just moved on to bigger, better things, in their life. And my trajectory wasn't going the same way as theirs. And sometimes you have to separate and go different ways. And um, but I also had a friend who was kind of like an older sister to me at this time. She taught our youth group when I was probably like middle school, freshman year into that, like eighth grade area. And but, like we were really close. She would take me, I would go spend the night at her apartment, and she was in college and going to a local college here, and we would just go on road trips together. Um, and she, would take me and hang out with her, and she was just really investing in me, and it just felt good for someone to pour into you, and um, but after she graduated college, she moved back to her hometown, and which was 8+ hours away. And so it was kind of devastating because not only did I not have that like friend outside of church, I lost my like mentor in church too. And so that was really hard. Um, and with that kind of like dissolved our youth leader roles, and we didn't really have anyone to fill that role at the time. And so that kind of ended youth group. So it was just kind of like a lot of devastation at that time. Then when Drew and I got back together in high school, and so the plan was I was going to graduate high school. I was going to go to college in Kentucky or Tennessee and go live with my grandparents, and then Drew and I were going to get married and live happily ever after. God had bigger, better plans. And my senior year, I think, um, God led Drew to join the church that I've been at my whole life. And so he joined, and then he got called to preach. And now he's the pastor. And so obviously God had a plan back, even from back then. You can look and see. But when he first moved here, he lived with a couple that was in our church, and it wasn't probably a week or two after he got settled and moved in that family got called to pastor a church 8 hours away and had to move. And we were like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? And we were close to this couple. They were kind of like our mentors in marriage, and the couple that we kind of went to for things. Um, and then right after high school, I had a friend that I've grown up with in church my whole life. We kind of just got closer the older we got, and she was kind of like my Jenna before I had Jenna, and she's very blunt and honest, and we just had that bond. Like we could be blunt and honest with each other, that like we wouldn't take offense to what we were saying, and we could just speak real truth to each other, and it just be it. We knew that we were doing it out of the best interest, and so. Um, we she was my maid of honor in my wedding, and we actually got into like a life death experience. So we had an accident together, and had to get stitches and all things. We were fine, but we wrecked a four-wheeler together. It was loads of fun. But she after that, she decided to pursue her career, and she moved all the way to California, and that was like really, really devastating. And I knew she had to do it. Like these things, some of these things aren't bad things. Like they're good for people. But when it leaves you empty, and it just leaves you like, where I had this person filling this time and this place in my heart for so long, and then they leave, it just feels you kind of like left and empty. Um, and then, I've had other friends and things, but the one that probably hit me the most was after I had Leland, my oldest, my papa got diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And my papa was my ride or die. Like he was the light of my life and the love of my life, like before Drew, and he was just always there. They always came to everything, him and my grandma. I mean, we went on vacations together. They were at every event that my brother and I did, and they were our biggest supporters. And he was the song leader at our church, and so he was the rock of our singing group, and he was like Drew looked up to him in singing and things like that, um and now he had his first great grandson, and he was ecstatic with Leland. Like they had such a bond. Even Leland wasn't even, I mean, he didn't even know, he doesn't even remember, but like they had such a bond. And about a year after, it was right after Leland's first birthday, he passed away. And that was really, really hard, really hard. That was probably like my first real, like close loss of someone dying that was super close to me. And you kind of go through the whole like, it's not fair. Why are you doing this? You know, all the things. Um, and then, but they're looking back, like God has answered all those questions. And it wasn't in that moment, but looking back, He has answered all of my questions that I had. And He has shown me as I continue to walk and I continue to allow time to go by how He has answered them. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about, I mean, I've had multiple friends come and go. I talked earlier about our miscarriage. And that was probably the deepest, darkest time of my life, when something so valuable is you seemingly is taken away from you. It really brings you to a dark place that even the strongest of people don't ever think they could get to. Um, and so it just, that was hard. It was like that felt an abandonment. And I didn't even technically meet this baby yet. You know, it wasn't very long. I didn't get it very long. And but even that felt like ripped away from you and gives you a sense of loneliness. And then the probably the most recent is my dad has been out of my life now for probably 5-ish years. He has just kind of, he got caught up in the world and sin, and um, we're all capable. Every last one of us are capable of allowing the devil and sin to overpower our life and take over. Um, but he just got too far gone. And so him and my mom split up, and that literally destroyed my family and what I knew. I mean, my family was grounded, and it never could happen. I mean, I had multiple friends growing up that had, a mom at one house and a dad at another house, had separate families, and I've dealt with that, and you never think it could happen to you. You just never, you live in this bubble. It's like I'm protected. It's not going to attack my family. I mean, we were a gospel singing group. Like it's never going to hit us. We're very grounded, and sin can attack anywhere at any time with anybody. And it did. And so in all of that, I lost my dad. And I was a big daddy's girl. Like I was a big dad's girl, and like my mom and I were friends, and I love my mom. Like there's no heart, like nothing between me and my mom. I was just a daddy's girl. And so with all that, my mom got remarried to a minister, and she moved to Tennessee. And like, even though I was a daddy's girl, my mom has thrown herself into, since the day that she had me and my brother, we have been her world, and she's done everything for us. And she's always been there with Leland and Tucker. She was there every appointment, every activity that they did, every game, every choir concert, everything. She was there all the time, supporting my family, my brother's family, my kids. Like she would help out when, it takes a village to raise kids, and she was definitely our village here. Because Drew's parents live in Tennessee, and so we don't have both sets of grandparents close. We just had my mom and dad at the time. And so when she got remarried, she moved down to Tennessee. That was super, super hard. And that because then there was like no one left. It felt like there was no one left. And um, she was that person. And so but through all of this, God has taught me so much. He showed me that through each person that has been taken away or has left or has been moved from places. And I don't think I mentioned this, but there are people who, like, we had a couple that we got really close to, um, who is also a minister and family, and they have four boys as well. And we were super close. He pastored another church locally here where Drew was a pastor and he was a pastor. And so, like, I'm not kidding when I say probably every other week we were trading off houses, and we would just get together and talk and cook dinner for each other. And it was just like we had that bond of like pastorship, that we would go. Well, God called him to another church in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and so he had to go and he had to leave. And that friendship it's different. They have not treated us any differently, but when you have that space and those miles that separate you, you just have to morph your friendship, and it just looks different now, and it's not the same. And so that was hard. And so, like, it's not that all these things are bad things. Some of them are really good things, and God's working all of these things for his good and his honor and glory. But that, like, I was finding my hope and my security in people. And so with each, you would think I would have learned back in the early days, but I didn't, and I still don't. I mean, I still, to this day, God still is teaching me that, like, your hope and your, you know, future and everything, that your security should be in me. You should find it within me and not in these other people. And so I was just pursuing and chasing fulfillment and acceptance and love, in other people and other relationships and things, instead of looking towards him. And so through each of these times, he would just remind me that when we get alone and we get quiet, it's in those moments of meditation and quietness and loneliness that we can truly hear and listen to him. And so I know I've been rambling for a minute, so I'm going to give you guys a minute before I keep going. But
I love a good ramble. Ask my Marco Polo friends. I love a good ramble. But I also have done a lot of talking. I have so many thoughts. Jenna, I'm gonna let you go though. Tell me, like listening to Lindsay talk about those experiences and seasons, what are your thoughts?
To have seen her walk through them and to know where she is now is really a testament to the Lord and what the Lord can do. And I know that she's dealt with some serious, dark moments and losing people and losing friendships, or friendships changing and relationships morphing into different things, like she said. But she has continued to stay faithful. Like, some of the things that she's walked through would cause other people to just turn from the Lord and walk away. Um, so it's a real testament to her faith and her foundation and to her husband. Um, they are a force to be reckoned with. They are just such a team. And I think we sometimes forget the value in that the Lord put the two of them together, or two, he put you together, and he really is going to work in those strong marriages. And I see that with Lindsay and Andrew. The two of them, they've walked through some things together, and I think it's only made them stronger. Um, but her faith is what stands out. It's not loud. It's not um, it's not fireworks. It's just steady. Her faith is steady, and she stayed on the Lord. And I guess I'm so emotional about it because it's such an example that we all need.
That is, I want to hold on to that thought that your faith is steady. I hope that's something that people say about me one day. And it's funny because Lindsay, listening to you talk about your mom, even though you're a daddy's girl, you're the way that you describe your mom, I'm like, oh, that's what I want my babies to say about me. I want them to think all those things, but more than that, I want them to think that my faith is steady. And so I just think about the example that you're setting for your kids, that like I don't know how much, I know you have a wide range of ages. And so I don't know how much of those things that they know, or are blissfully unaware of, but I, I, I hope you know that like Jenna sees that, and people that love you and are close to you see that your faith is steady, but you're setting that example for those babies in your home too, who are not quite babies anymore, but they're getting to see that, and the people in your community are getting to see that too.
And that's what drives Drew and I. I mean, God called us and gave each and every one of those babies to us for a reason. And He entrusted us to make them followers and disciples for Him one day. And so we fail miserably, but every time that we are teaching or we try and instruct or guide our children, it's fully directed back on Him. I remember one time, Jenna says I can't do this without Drew, and she's 100% right. Like he is my rock for sure, besides the Lord, and guides me and is definitely the husband, biblical husband that he should be. And but one time they went to a Christian school before I stayed home and did homeschool, and Leland's a talker. If anyone knows Leland, he's a talker and he loves people and he's joyful and he loves to be everybody's friend. And so he was in kindergarten and he just kept getting in trouble for talking. Like he would just get on red every day for talking. He loves to talk. And so one time Drew sat down and opened his Bible, and at 5 years old, he's 5. He can't even hardly read the Bible yet. But at 5, I watched God speak to Leland and Drew in this moment of like, Drew sat down and was like, what does the Bible say about someone who talks way too much and who doesn't listen to their friends? And at 5 years old, it was just like God just gave Leland this, like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, and if that's what God says, then that's how I should be. And he wasn't saved. He didn't have a relationship with the Lord yet. It was just his basic like knowledge of God. But it was God still spoke to him in that moment. And it's just like God revealed. And Drew and I had tried and tried, like, please stop talking. Please stop talking, Leland. Please stop talking in class. Like you need to listen. And we tried to explain, but allowing God to use Drew in that moment and to reveal himself through his word to my 5-year-old was just like so powerful to us that just morphed our whole parenting aspect of like, no, let's bring everything back to the Lord. And because this is the point. It's the whole point of why we are raising our kiddos is to honor and glorify Him. And so that testimony and testament just really stuck out to me at that time is like, yeah, if we bring it all back to Him, He'll use it for His good and His honor and glory. And so,
Yeah. That's such a sweet story, and I know that a lot of people deal with those, like red cards in kindergarten for talking. So I'm sure that there are a lot of mamas who feel very seen um, because of that. Okay, I know I don't want to take all of your time, but I do want to ask you this question based off of what you just said. Are you far enough along in some of these experiences and some of these seasons where you can see how now that it's over, the Lord is using it, that those really hard things to bring honor and glory to Him.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I don't know how you can't look back. And Jenna talked about how steady my faith is. And it's not, it's all to Him. And I think when you allow yourself to get to a point of being so low, you realize and have this almost epiphany, so to speak. It's like, who else do I have to turn to? Who else but him do I have to look to? Do I have to lean on? Because even my husband, who I said is my rock and my leader, fails me daily. We're human. We fail each other. And even all those friends that I were looking for satisfaction and security and comfort from, they still failed me. They still failed me. And so but He never fails us. He never leaves us. He never fails us. And so each and every time, like I said, I should have learned a long time ago, but each and every experience and each and every example that I have, every time when you get to the other side, you can see like, no, I brought you here so you can lean on me and trust me to do good for you.
I think that's the goodness of the Lord too. Like it's just another way that He is good to us by letting us see those things. Um, Lindsay, we've been talking about different characters, and I've taken you for 50 minutes already. So I can't
You're
leave,
fine.
though. I can't leave this conversation without giving you an opportunity to talk about like a couple scriptures that you have leaned on through this season. And I'm specifically thinking about people who feel like they're alone right now, either literally alone or figuratively. Um, where are some places in the Word that you found comfort during these difficult times?
Yeah, and like I told Jenna, I have like 5 pages of notes, so I'm trying to try and like wrap it up to like high level view. But I my biggest character that I related to, I know you sent me Hagar, and she did, like, she was alone in the wilderness with her son for sure. But I told Jenna the one that my heart drew to the most, I relate to the most because of, like we talked about earlier, is my boldness and my outgoingness is Elijah. And Elijah, he was looked at, and they had perspectives on him because of his boldness, and he was even hunted and look sought after to be killed because of what he was proclaiming and prophesying for the Lord. And even when Elijah was by himself and alone, I want to point out that it wasn't, the Bible says it wasn't in the loud. It wasn't in our loud things. It wasn't in the earthquake and the windstorm and the fire when God really spoke to him. He was able to speak to him internally in that still small voice. And so I think each of the scriptures that, God has brought to my heart here is like him just using that still small voice like he did with Elijah to speak to us with. And so a few of them that I have is Proverbs 18:24. That one, he sticks closer than a brother. My two older boys are 19 months apart, and they are each other's ride or die. They share a room. They will fight like cats and dogs, don't get me wrong. But like when it comes down to trouble times or it comes down to having each other's back, they're the first one to volunteer for each other. And when someone goes to stay the night at a friend's house or at Mama's house, and it's just one of them and not both of them, it's like, what do I do? I don't have my brother. And it just, it, God has used them and their relationship for sure to show me that, like, Jesus is even closer than that. Like, he's closer, and the Lord is closer than that to us all on a daily basis. And we don't have to ask him. He wants to be there, and he wants to show up for us. And then, in John 14 and 16 and 8, and John 16 as well, when God talks about that he's sending the Holy Spirit to be our comforter. Like, he wants to comfort us. He wants to be there for us. He's and the word there, comforter, means counselor. And so where I was looking for all this advice and I was looking for the security and all these things in the wrong places in human, I should have been looking to the true counselor, like the true counselor who can give me the best answers and the right answers, and who knows me more than all of these human people. Even my own mother knows me. He knows me better than that. And he knows what lies ahead of me, and he knows what I've walked through. And then definitely the Psalms are filled. I mean, they're just filled with it. I had to cut myself off eventually at the Psalms because I could go on for days. But, Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, for thou art with me. It goes in there, and I'm going to highlight these. I'm not quoting word for word here. But Psalms 27 talks about even when your mother and father leave you, that God is still with you. Psalms 39, apart from God, life is fleeting and empty, but we can find hope in Him and in God and the Lord. Psalms 43, when we feel like we have no hope, our hope is in Jesus. And um, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Um, and the caveat that I want to add here, and I really wanted to bring out, is where I struggle with is God has shown me this revelation, but I do have to remind myself that there is a fine line between having confidence in the Lord and all that He can do for us and versus just falling into a numbness state. Because, Jenna talked about that we have walked through a lot, and we have, more than what I have shared and been through on here. And so you kind of get this, like, you can't touch me, so to speak. It's like, no one can touch me. Like, you have that confidence in the Lord, which you should. You should have the confidence that, like, nothing can ever bring us too far down because I have God to walk through. But then there is a fine line where sometimes you get in that spot where it's like, you can't touch me because I've built up so many walls. I've built up walls where I don't want people in. And I've built up walls now with friends where I only allow myself to get to a certain part in a friendship because I don't want to feel that hurt and rejection and separation again. Or I only allow myself, even with the Lord, I only allow the Lord in so much because I don't want the disappointment and the hurt and the pain. And it's in those times, um, that God just shows me is like, okay, you're getting too far here. I want that faith, and I want your trust and everything within me, but don't let yourself get into that numb, content space, because it's very easy to fall into where then you don't feel anything. You don't feel anything spiritually. You don't feel anything physically. You're kind of just walking through the motions. And you do, I mean, you can keep going, and on the outside you look fine, like you're succeeding and you keep going, but on the inside you're not feeling anything, and that is a scary, scary part to get to. Um, and also, just a couple more. Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of who attacks you. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Um, and so God does care for us. He cares how we feel. He wants to know. He wants to have those intimate conversations with us. He wants us to converse with him on the daily. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 says, pray without ceasing. And that doesn't just mean pray all the time. That doesn't mean you have to be on your hands and knees in your prayer closet praying all the time. No, it's mean when you're struggling and you're standing at the kitchen counter doing your dishes, talk to the Lord. When you're about to discipline your children and it's a hard season right now, talk to the Lord. Like, I feel like that is more when he was saying pray without ceasing, is be constant in conversation with me because I'm here to help you. I'm here to be utilized. And I feel like a lot of times we just don't utilize him. We just think that we can do it on our own and we don't utilize him. And again, in James 4:8, it says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. So the closer that we are to God doesn't just mean like in our spiritual walk, it does, but the closer that we converse with him, the closer that we feel him. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God, and I will strengthen ye. I will hold you up with my right hand of my righteousness. Um, 1 Peter 5:7, cast all your anxieties and cares on him, for he cares for you. Like, all of these things, all of these scriptures, you can just put them all over your mirror and all over your wall and your car and all the things, to remind yourself that God really does care for you. And like I talked about earlier during the miscarriage, I read a book, and I said, in my introduction, I'm an avid book reader. But Lisa Turkhurst wrote a book called Uninvited, and it talks about rejection and and the feeling of loneliness. And it goes perfectly with our podcast today. So if you haven't read it and you want a good read, go read Uninvited by Lisa Turkhurst. It's so good. But it just like the book is just all about living loved when you feel less than, left out, and lonely. Um, it talks about the characteristics of God. And when you get to that deep, dark spot and that deep, dark place where you feel like you're in that hole and you don't even know where to turn to start to dig yourself out, take yourself back to the Lord and who He is. And I just, and all of his characteristics. There are millions of Bible scripture verses on the characteristics of what God is. God is love. He is kind. He's compassionate. He's faithful. He's merciful. He's strong. He's righteous. He's our refuge. He's a healer. And like all of these things is who he is and what he wants to be for us. And so I just those are probably like my highlight views and my scriptures that I go to the most in these times, is just grounding myself back when I get overwhelmed and we talk about, and I know you guys have talked about being overstimulated, all the moms in social media are overstimulated moms. When I get overstimulated and I get overwhelmed and all the things, ground yourself in Jesus and who he is, and just remind yourself that he is loving and he's caring and he doesn't want you to stay this way. And loneliness is not something that he wants for you. He doesn't want you to feel alone. That was never his intention. And that's why he sent us the Holy Spirit that we talked about earlier. And so he knew that that would be a struggle of people, of being lonely and loneliness. And so why he gave us the comforter. And so I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. And for people listening, we're gonna capture all that in the show notes so that they can go back to it and look through, like look those up and read them. And like you said, like put it on your mirror in your car, in your kitchen by the sink, wherever you need it, so that you can ground yourself in the truth of the scriptures. And we'll put the book Uninvited in the show notes too for people to be able to find and read. Jenna, any final thoughts before we wrap up today, this conversation with Lindsay?
No, I'm grateful that she was vulnerable and willing to share, because I think this is going to touch a lot of people. And not of anything she's done. It's all because of the Lord. And I know she would say that, but just to see that the Lord has worked through her life and in her life, in these valleys, and he's brought her through many of them, and she's been on the mountain. And I hope it's an encouragement to others to hear that you're not alone, and that yes, you're going to go through hard times, but there is a God who loves you and cares for you and can get you through these things. And I know Lindsay would tell you, if you need someone to talk to, she talk to the Lord first, but she would be willing to be there for you as well.
Mark, Marco Polo me anytime.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lindsay. It was so good, and I echo what Jenna said. We just appreciate you coming and sharing your life with us.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for having me. I will say, I know we spoke earlier, my family's musically inclined and we everything, so I love a good song. And the song Flowers by Samantha, I think last name's Eber, I don't know how to pronounce it, but um it I think goes along really, really well with our topic today. And so if you are like me and you need a good song to get you through, and just want to play some music in the background as you study or whatever, I highly recommend that song. And talks about even flowers grow in the valleys. And so when you get to the other side, you'll be able to look back and see every single point that you had to walk through these so God could give you these testimonies and he could give you this instruction and grow you closer to him. And so I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks for coming to the table. We hope today's conversation encouraged you as you seek Jesus in the big moments and the little ones. Check out the show notes for any scripture, resources, anything we talked about today. Feel free to share this episode, leave a comment, ask some questions, or share your thoughts with us. Next week, Jenna and I will continue this conversation, focusing on some of the gems that Lindsay shared with us. I don't feel like we say it enough, but thanks for being here. Thank you for listening and encouraging us and each other. If you haven't already, go follow us on all the socials to see the things we're sharing throughout the week. We'll see you next time.